In the quiet cul-de-sac of Cottonwood Hollow, Arizona, a retired Delta Force operator named Ethan Caldwell thought he'd found peace. After 2 decades of navigating bullet-riddled war zones, black site missions, and operations buried under layers of government deniability, Ethan wanted nothing more than silence. No more shadows, no more lies, just a simple life where the loudest sound was the hum of cicadas. He chose Cottonwood Hollow for its sleepy charm, a suburban enclave far enough from the city to dodge traffic but close enough for a decent diner. His house, a modest single-story at the curve of the loop, caught the morning sun perfectly on its front porch. The neighbors were polite, their lawns manicured to an almost obsessive degree, and the air carried a stillness that felt like a gift. For Ethan, who'd served vet ambushes, IEDs, and 3 hostage extractions, this was as close to heaven as he'd ever get. His only companion was Blitz, a German shepherd trained to sniff out explosives and hold steady under gunfire. Now, Blitz chased desert lizards and lounged in the sun, his lethal instincts hidden behind a wagging tail. Ethan didn't advertise the dog's past. Let the neighbors think he was just a rescue. Days passed in quiet routine, mornings tweaking sprinklers, afternoons carving custom cabinet knobs, evenings sipping beer on the back porch as shadows stretched across his cedar fence. That fence, 6.5 feet of sturdy planks, gave him privacy, a barrier between his world and the one outside. It was perfect. Until the letter arrived. It came tucked between a grocery flyer and a tire shop coupon, a plain white envelope with Cottonwood Hollow HOA printed in crisp letters. Ethan opened it absently, Blitz dozing nearby. The message was short, formal, and absurd. Dear Mr. Caldwell, your fence exceeds the maximum allowable height under Cottonwood Hollow HOA regulations by 6 inches. You are required to bring the structure into compliance within 10 business days. Failure to comply may result in fines or legal action. Ethan read it twice, a disbelieving chuckle escaping his lips. His fence? The one that came with the house? 6 inches too tall? It had to be a mistake, a clerical error. But the words were clear, and something cold stirred in him, not anger, but the faint pulse of instinct, the kind that kicked in before a mission went sideways. Wars, he knew, didn't always start with gunfire. Sometimes they began with paper. 5 days later, a second letter arrived, this time in bold red ink, final notice. Compliance required. No pleasantries, just a deadline and a threat of escalating fines. Ethan set it on the counter, staring as the Arizona sun cast long shadows across his yard. Blitz slept by the glass door, oblivious to the brewing storm. By the third letter, a $275 fine was stapled to the Pagino inspection, no appeal, just a demand. Ethan didn't pay. Instead, he took Blitz for a walk, strolling past beige stucco homes and pastel mailboxes. That's when he noticed it, other fences, some taller than his, some crooked or garish. Not one had a violation notice. This wasn't about the fence. It was about him. The HOA summoned him to a disciplinary hearing. Ethan pictured a formal room, a table, a discussion. What he found was a folding table under a pop-up canopy by the community center, 3 lawn chairs, and a panel of golf-shirt locals led by Evelyn Monroe, the HOA president. Late 50s, platinum hair frozen in place, a law degree from some Ivy League school. She sat ramrod straight, her eyes like polished steel. She wasn't here to negotiate, she was here to dominate. Mr. Caldwell, she began, voice clipped. Your fence violates Article 4, Section C. You've ignored multiple notices. Ethan stayed calm. I didn't ignore them. I disagreed. I've seen taller fences here. No violations. Why mine? A man to her left, wearing a Ted HOA treasurer name tag, shifted uncomfortably, but Evelyn cut him off. This isn't about comparisons. It's about community harmony. Frankly, your presence is disruptive. That word disruptive hit like a tripwire. Not non-compliant, not in violation, but disruptive. Ethan saw it clearly now. This was about him, the quiet ex-soldier who skipped barbecues and didn't laugh at HOA newsletters. He met her gaze, steady and unyielding. Evelyn's smile was cold, a silent warning, "We run this place, and you don't belong." Ethan nodded, not in agreement but in recognition. He'd seen that smile before on warlords, on corrupt officials, on those who thrived on rigged systems. He hadn't bowed then. He wouldn't now. The escalation came at midnight, a guttural roar shattering the lavender-scented calm of Cottonwood Hollow. Ethan rose from his couch, Missouri VYing to the window without flipping on the porch light. Moonlight and street lamps revealed 7 Harley-Davidson suns idling along his curb, chrome gleaming like polished weapons. Their riders, clad in leather vests with HOA enforcement crew embroidered on the back, dismounted in unison, engines throbbing like a declaration of war. The leader, a hulking figure with a snake tattoo curling around his neck, spat tobacco onto Ethan's lawn and growled, "We're here to encourage compliance." It wasn't a threat, it was theater, a show of power. Ethan stepped onto the porch, arms loose, eyes scanning. 7 men, one of him. He noted their stances, 3 cocky, 2 hesitant, 1 twitchy near his waistband, likely to panic. The old clarity returned, the stillness before a firefight. "You boys lost?" he asked, voice flat. The leader grinned. "Just doing our duty. HOA says you're ignoring warnings?" A rider revved his engine for effect. Another lit a cigarette, smoke curling toward Ethan's roof. They wanted a reaction. Ethan didn't give them one. "You've made your point. Leave." A pause hung heavy, the air shifting. The leader spat again, closer to Ethan's boots, then signaled his crew. The bikes rode off, taillights fading. Ethan stood until the rumble vanished, then locked the door and fed Blitz. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a gauntlet. They returned at dawn, day after day, engines growling like a beast circling its prey. Sometimes they idled, sometimes they revved until car alarms wailed. Occasionally, they just watched, silent and menacing. Then came the trash, crushed beer cans in the gravel, burger wrappers on Ethan's truck, a used condom in his mailbox. Each act was a taunt, a push for a reaction the HOA could weaponize. Ethan stayed silent, his discipline forged in places where a single flinch could mean death. But the neighbors began to crack. Some waved nervously at the bikers, others whispered, "He's ex-military, probably unstable. That dog looks dangerous. I heard he threatened the board." Ethan wasn't a neighbor anymore, was a pariah. Then Blitz barked a sharp, combat-trained warning. Ethan was outside in seconds, finding no bikers, no engines, just a cigarette burn on Blitz's training mat, the menthol stench fresh. This wasn't about Ethan anymore. It was about his family. His fists clenched, but his pulse held steady. Something shifted, not with a shout but with a quiet, irreversible resolve. Ethan didn't reach for a gun. He reached for intel. At his desk, he worked with surgical precision, pulling HOA financials, budgets, and addresses. Patterns emerged: shell companies, inflated contracts, funds funneled to Evelyn Monroe via an old alias. He turned to the bikers, using security footage and archived databases to profile them. One had a pending felony, another an arson warrant, a third a scrubbed sex offender record. Ethan compiled it all: dates, names, account numbers into a dossier, the Cottonwood Hollow HOA cartel. He sent it anonymously to every neighbor, the HOA mailing list, and a local blog known for exposing scams. By morning, the PDF was viral in town, its silence louder than any engine. Ethan didn't stop there. He made 3 calls to old Delta teammates Luke, Mason, and Stone. No explanations, just coordinates. They arrived Thursday, ghosts slipping into a suburban war zone. No gear, no fanfare, just presence. They walked Blitz through the neighborhood, sat on Ethan's porch, drank coffee, and stared through the bikers with unshakable calm. Day 1, the engine softened. Day 2, fewer bikers showed. Day 3, the curb was empty. The threat retreated, not with a fight but with a whimper. Evelyn fought back, calling an emergency HOA session. Ethan stayed home, grilling with his team while Blitz chewed a toy. The rebellion started quietly, led by Harold, a retired teacher 2 houses down. Clipboard in hand, he collected signatures for a petition, removed the HOA board for unethical conduct, misuse of funds, and endangering safety. Ethan's dossier fueled the fire, his teammates' presence gave courage, and Evelyn's silence cracked the dam. Frustration became rage, not loud, but relentless. At the vote, 92 Fan Tram demanded the board's ouster. Evelyn left without a word, her house for sale by noon. She slipped a note into Ethan's mailbox. "You're not what this place deserves, but what it needed." Ethan burned it, watching the ashes scatter. The weeks after were still. Ethan rebuilt his fence, same height, no compromises. Neighbors waved again, some with respect, one Leah VYing cookies on his porch. Harold stopped by, clipboard empty. "We're just keeping it safe now," he said. Ethan nodded. Peace returned, but Ethan knew its cost. Some nights, distant engines growled, too far to threaten but close enough to remind. He'd sit on the porch, Blitz at his feet, the fence casting long shadows. Cottonwood Hollow saw him now not as the man with the tall fence, but as the one who drew a line and held it. Peace wasn't free, and Ethan Caldwell, Delta forever, was its quiet, unyielding sentinel.